Thanks, Meryl. Wow. Learning a lot today, and really happy to have been invited to be here because this is just such an important effort on all of our parts to address the fact that we live in a desert. And we haven't thought that way, at least most of the populace hasn't thought that way for a long time. And so all of us can just need to do our parts to help people understand that living in a coastal desert can really be beautiful. And I think that that's something that Lou and I have really taken to heart in the projects that we've worked on. And so today we're going to talk about two of them. One is the North Embarcadero project, and Jackie can hit the next slide. And I think go back one. I think we can all relate to why this is important. This is a really accentuated graphic to make the point that all of this inland area makes its way into the beautiful bay and ocean that we all enjoy. And today, if you go one forward, you'll see what the area we're going to talk about is the western waterfront of downtown San Diego. This is the North Embarcadero project. And I'll start with a little bit of sad story. We started on this in the year 2000, and no one in the city or the county or CCDC at the time was interested in any stormwater capture. We tried to put it into the project, and it just fell on deaf ears. It was too expensive to put cisterns in, and so nothing was put into the schematic design package in 2004. So fast forward, we were fortunate to get onto the design team to build the first phase. And again, a little bit of a sad report. The only reason that there's anything in here that's improving the water quality is because of regulation. It wouldn't happen on the good advice of their landscape architect, who wanted to actually say, if you're going to be tearing up this much of the waterfront, why don't we put in cisterns and capture all the water? Because I think most of us in this room know that water flows downhill. It still does. And where is downhill the most downhill? It's at the edge of our bay. And so, whereas on many sites, there's never really enough site area to capture the water, and never really enough water to make too much of a difference. But we could take advantage of all the surface runoff on all the streets in downtown San Diego, and it all comes to the point source right here. That still fell on deaf ears. So what we have is now the good news, and the next slide, we'll start to get there. And if I go fast enough, I think the screen stays bright. This is the area we're talking about. It's Broadway, the city's main street as it meets the bay. And this first phase is the area to the right of the slide on Harbor Drive. And also there's another piece that goes to the left that's obscured by the building. So this is, of course, why it's important. It's going right into the bay. Next slide. This is the treatment that was done along Broadway. And we don't have the before and after, but we took a serious section of Broadway and changed the grade so that we could better capture the water and get it into our system to take it to the filtration basins that we have. So the next slide shows now getting onto the esplanade portion, where the preponderance of what was asphalt is almost all permeable paving now. This is decomposed granite that creates a jogging path right along Harbor Drive, large garden areas that are all decomposed granite, and then we get to pavers that are set on sand. Next slide shows the pavers set on sand at the esplanade, and people enjoying it, really quite successful. Next slide shows the garden areas. And again, the reason why we're trying to capture all this water and do something with it, because of it's so dirty, to protect it from getting into the blue water. Next slide. Now you can see the cross section moving from inland on the right to the bay. And so all of the water in the watershed is then channeled to these receiving basins, and here you'll see the area that is, we're dubbing the water quality band, that grabs all the water and allows it to be filtered before it goes into the bay. The next slide shows the plan view of the area, and the drain shed, I could say, is essentially everything you see on the screen in the public right-of-way. All that water that was going completely unprotected and unfiltered to the bay is now being captured. And the next slide will show a little bit of an animation. We get one slide. This is as though it rained and there's water on everything. That water in Broadway goes into is captured into a standard storm drain system, and then that water is directed into our collection. Water that falls on Harbor Drive is directed in, and you can start to see here the inlets that are in the street, significantly sized inlets. Again, we were aware that small inlets would not make sense, and so the water you're seeing in the blue area is now been directed through the inlets, is now in the water quality band, and one more shows then that water is then slow released into the bay. And so you can start to see here, I guess go forward. We can go forward now. I'm going to have Lou talk particularly about the specific treatment and design of the Esplanade for its stormwater infrastructure.
Thank you. So when we start designing it, Civil has identified, this project we wanted treating the runoff produced from the 85% higher stormwater event for 2 years storm event, and there are certain type of pollutant of concern. There's asphalt paving, lots of roadway debris, heavy metal all collecting through this area. Next slide. So there are two types of BMP has been designed for this project. So this is showing the asymmetric view of the BMP design with the planting area. So like a typical bioswale, you got the planting and then the mulch area, and there are about 24 inches of a soil depth that varies. It varies in different depth, but it's typically between 18 to 24 inches, and then. There's a pea gravel at the bottom, and then those water will be gradually through the different layer and then to the bottom of the perfect pipe before released out to the ocean. Next slide. So this is showing the structured BMP where we had a certain area the pedestrian need to cross over. So where we had the interface between the crossing through the water conveyance channel that we designed it with the structured type of BMP that had the rock aggregate with the pea gravel and still have a soil because we need a kind of slowly and using the soil to release out some of the pollutant and before it goes down to the bottom of the drain and then release out to the ocean. Next slide, please. So I want to kind of go through the system. So the design team has taken a very hard look at where the low point and using along the street. So design with several low point and capture all the water from the roadway to what we call a water conveyance channel through the main garden area. The water conveyance channel is designed with the metal grating on top and with the concrete bottom at the base at the bottom, and is sloping towards the what we call a water conveyance channel on the west side of the garden room. This slide. And the water is captured through the water conveyance channel to this about 10 feet wide of water conveyance channel. And so as you can see in this picture, there are planting BMP, and what we call out is a planting BMP that I was showing you a different type of layer with the planting. And then where there's a crossing, we're using the bridge as a design expression to make, and people can kind of expression that kind of linear and being part of a garden experience. Next slide. Here's a picture of a planting character for the conveyance channel. Next slide. And then here's the bridge showing that you crossing over and then into the DG and decompose area with the garden room. We call it garden room. And here's a picture showing you when it's raining, how the beautiful the system and the paver and then the bridge. And this one. So another look of into another picture looking into the water commence channel, and then the paving along the waterfront is actually also sloping towards. Everything is being captured by this water commence channel.
Oh, good, yeah. That
Right.
animation went too fast.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a view kind of looking at the garden. Next. Okay, and then that's the view, another view, just kind of look at how the people will experience it. And actually there's a spatial interpretation panel also along this North Baldero to explain to the visitor how this was integrated as part of the design. And next slide, okay, that's another picture. Keep going. So Marty and I are working on. Marty's going to talk about UCSC project. This is one of the other projects that we're using EMP as part of the integrated experience through the students' day-to-day experience. So Marty, you want to?
Okay. Thank you, Lou. I wanted to quickly go through this project because I think it also shows some really wonderful ways that stormwater can be, and its expression can be made a beautiful part of a site design. This is the Charles David Keeling Apartments. We were so honored to be allowed to name the project after Charles David Keeling. Does that name sound familiar to anybody?
Yes.
Dr. Keeling was the scientist at Scripps who first discovered and noticed that carbon was building up in our atmosphere. So if you go to the National Science Foundation in DC, in the main lobby there are three things on the wall. There's the equation E equals mc squared, there are Darwin's finches, and there's the Keeling curve. And we're really fortunate the family still lives in La Jolla. Ralph Keeling is a PhD scientist at Scripps, carrying on his father's heritage. And this project was awarded a LEED Platinum certification, the first LEED Platinum residential project in the UC system. And so it incorporates a number of features. There's a vegetated roof that absorbs all the stormwater that lands on it in the central building. There's photovoltaics on the rest of the roofs, and the stormwater from all those roofs and an entire watershed, including this parking lot, is all directed towards our project. And the next slide will probably bring things a little bit more into focus, why this was so important. We're starting to get to the very southern end of the UCSD campus, and all this water that from all those parking lots was going directly into the ocean. As was pointed out, this water doesn't go anywhere else but in a storm drain except into our bays and ocean. Next slide talks a little bit about the system. This is the site area that we were looking to capture in light blue, and the conveyance of that. The next slide shows the means of doing it. We wanted a planted roof, we had bioswales, and we also have an underground tank to reduce peak flow. Next slide shows that in an overall oblique dissection with the green roof, the structures we created in the ground plane. Next slide. A little closer up, again, review that we were pulling all the water from upland. We were running it through the building, if you believe that. Water captured on the green roof and the major arroyo in the left slide there. Next. This is the central court in rain, and you can start to understand we were able to work with the architect, who is Kieran Timberlake, very sustainable focused architecture firm. They understand the value of this, they can believe it. They raised the entire building up so that we can run a 100-year storm through this conveyance area under the building. And so what you're seeing is a 4-foot wide grate covered conveyance channel that pulls all the roof water off of the building that's where I'm standing and directs it into the central area. The lawn is sloped, and then water you're seeing comes from the other building into those channels. So this is, in a way, a very kind of hit you over the head expression, so that people, when it rains, people get a show. All of the water becomes visible, and you can hear the water under the grates. Next slide shows the detailing of this. This is the water that's picked up in the parking lot, is brought into this channel. The seat walls work, or the walls of the channel work as seat walls to watch the basketball games. Next slide shows the expression of moving from the very constructed channels into this very naturalized arroyo bioswale with organic and mineral BMPs. Next. And I think part of it is that we really strive to make the details of our work very beautiful. It gets to that point Jim was bringing up that, otherwise if people don't value it, they don't think it looks good, they just tear it out and don't pay attention to it. The next slide is just the sublime quality of the clean water. And believe me, it just filled my heart with such joy to see the first storm event, all of this very clean water making its way into the storm drain that came out of this very polluted parking lots. So that's it for us. Thank you.